Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. And if you're new here, my name is Tiffany. Thank you for joining me. If you haven't already, please subscribe and make sure you hit the notification bell so that when I upload, you guys get all of the latest videos. And be sure to give a thumbs up and leave a comment so that I know that you guys like this type of content. That way, I'll be sure to make more videos like this. But today, we're getting back into the swing of things. I feel like the start of 2024 has been a little slow for me when it comes to, podcasting and everything, but I'm trying to get back into it. I'm trying to get back into the flow of things. So I wanted to do this movie review because it's long overdue. The movie has been out and I seen it like a while ago. But now I'm getting into it. So we're going to be talking about the 2023 version of The Color Purple, which debuted on Christmas Day, and I went to go see it on Christmas Day. Did y'all go see it on Christmas Day? Let me know in the comments. And so after I saw it, I was like, yeah, this would be great for the podcast. I really want to talk about it. And then I didn't do it. Just now doing it. So this is, like I said, this is long overdue, but I want to get into it because I know that there was a lot of discourse around the film. Um, People had their reasons why they didn't like it or why they weren't too crazy about it. And then on the opposite side of it, there was people saying how much they loved it even better than the original and stuff like that. So I just wanted to talk about that because I feel like this film has such a rich history, specifically for Black people and just to the culture and everything like that. So I don't know. I thought this would be like a good movie to review. And if you have not seen the movie yet, or if you haven't seen anything about it, like you've never seen The Color Purple, you have no idea what the film is about, you might want to at least watch the original before you listen to my review because I probably will be spoiling some things. I'm going to try not to reveal the whole movie just because I feel like this version of the film is pretty different than the original, but still, like the essence of the story is still there. So you know, I don't want to spoil it for you if you really don't know anything about it, unless you just want to sit back and listen, and that's fine too. So I wanted to get into first off, wanted to say congratulations to the cast and crew because they did such a wonderful job on the movie. I read somewhere that it was like the second biggest Christmas Day debut like since like 2009 or something like that. I don't know what movie was number 1, but I read that and I was like, wow, that's pretty good. And when you think about it, there really hasn't been any like huge movies that have come out on Christmas Day in a really long time. So I think that was kind of smart that they did that on Christmas Day. But yeah, I guess that was a good part on them because it brought people out on Christmas morning to go see the film with their family and their friends and everything. And like I said, I enjoyed it, so congratulations to them on doing such a good job. And this film was directed by Blitz. Um, I feel like I'm gonna butcher his last name, so I'm not even gonna say it, but you guys can look it up. But directed by Blitz, and he did such a great job with this film as well. Um, I guess just to give a little context for people who really don't know much about it. So, the original story derives from a novel by Alice Walker, which I believe was published in 1982. And then the original film that most people know of with Whoopi Goldberg, that came out in 1985. So, I think, a lot of people were probably going into it thinking that it was going to be exactly like that one, and it's definitely not. For some reason, there was this whole thing where people didn't know that it was a musical and they were surprised by that, or they were like put off by it, or they were like, musicals isn't really my thing. I didn't know it was going to be that much singing and that much dancing. And I thought that was kind of odd. I was like, no shade, but no shade. Like, they show like the musical parts of it in the trailer. So I'm kind of just like, how did you go into the movie not knowing anything about it? I don't know. That's just me. I don't know. But I definitely knew it was. So I guess if there was any confusion, I feel like people should know this by now because it's been out for a while. But this version of the film, it's basically a film adaptation of a Broadway musical. So The Color Purple was a Broadway show back in the mid 2000s, and Fantasia actually did play Celie back then as well. So this is basically her just like reprising her role. And so that's what it's coming from. It's not completely taking away from the original film, but obviously there are still aspects of what happens in that film that happens in this film, but it's different. It's still really different. So it's hard to compare. It's really hard to say, well, this one is better because, you're comparing a musical between like a really serious like drama like film. That's kind of hard to compare. So let's get into some of the main differences that I noticed with this film compared to the 1985 version. So I guess the obvious is the musical aspect of it, the singing and everything, which I thought was great. Like, I'm honestly not like a huge musical person. I don't watch a ton of musicals, but to me, I'm like, if you give me good singing and good choreography, then like I'm in it. Like I'm interested. So they had both. And I knew, like, we all know Fantasia can sing. So I had no doubt that she was gonna kill the role, at least the musical aspect of it. And I think we've kind of heard Taraji P. Henson sing a little bit. Now I didn't know that Danielle Brooks can sing. I feel like I don't know if I've ever heard her sing or seen her in something that where she was singing. I could be wrong. I think most of us remember her as Tasty and the Oranges. What is it called? The Orange is the New Black, and that was like a big hit show. And I was watching it up until a certain point. If y'all know there was a part where they killed one of the best characters. When they did that, I was over it. I was like, I don't even watch the show anymore, so I didn't watch it. So I don't really even know how that show ended, but she was good in that. So I knew that she could act, but I don't think I knew that she could sing. So that was kind of a pleasant surprise. Um, but yeah, and then of course we had like Halle Bailey in it. She played young Nettie. Definitely knew that she was gonna kill it. And I don't know the actress's name who played young Celie, but she did really well too. And I loved the sisterhood and the friendship between her and Nettie as kids. I thought that was really sweet, like how protective Nettie was of her. And I mean, we see that in their original film, but to me, Halle she kind of played it a little bit more aggressively. I think she was much more like no nonsense, I think, in this. And so I love that like protectiveness she had over her. And even when they did get split up, spoiler, I guess, if you haven't seen it or if you don't know the story, but when they did get split up, it was like, she was still very driven by the fact that she was going to see her sister again, that like they were going to be reunited, and nothing was going to keep them apart for forever, basically. And so I really liked that. Like, so I think one of the biggest differences in the movie outside of the musical aspect of it was Celie having an imagination and us as an audience being able to see and understand and feel how Celie was feeling in certain moments. So in the original film, like, she's in an abusive relationship in an abusive household. Of course, we know that she doesn't want to live that life, that's not where she wants to be, that I'm sure that she wants better for herself. I mean, I think there's a certain point in the movie where she does get so used to it because it goes on from childhood to adulthood. So of course, like if anybody was in that situation, I think it would mess with you mentally. But I think in the newer version, I feel like the way Fantasia played Celie and the fact that we had those moments where she would like think of something and then would break out into a song or a dance and everything like that. I think that gave us a little bit more insight into how she was feeling. And not just when she was imagining it, but even when there really was like actual singing and dancing going on. So I think it was kind of a little bit more of an inside look into her, if that makes sense. So I think that was different in this film, and I like that too. And I think a good comparison or a good example of that is in the new Little Mermaid. So obviously, like, and if you've seen it, then you know what I'm talking about. So obviously, like in the animated version, we don't always like entirely know what Ariel's thinking or what's going on, but I think in the new version we see that a little bit more because of the way they play it. And there's a specific scene in the new one where Ariel is mute. And then there's a scene where, like, in her head, she's singing, and it's like the things that she wants to say to the prince, but she can't say it because she's mute. So things like that, where they include in the new movie, where you're like, oh, okay, like this song is lending itself to tell the audience like how she's feeling in this moment or what's going on in her head. And so I like that. And it started from like the very beginning where we see her as a child and then even all the way up until adulthood. So the other difference, and this is kind of going into I guess my favorite character and who I feel like was the breakout star in this was definitely Danielle Brooks as Sophia. I feel like if you've seen the original, I think most people really liked Sophia as a character, even when Oprah played her in the original one, just because she was, she was like the hard one, and obviously, like, you wouldn't have expected that from a woman, especially at that time, and a black woman at that, and her, not always having a filter and kind of being like no nonsense. And I think in this one, she was like even more so, in my opinion. Where it was really like, you do not want to mess with Sophia. You felt that in the first one, but in this one, it was like, I mean, it was like anybody could get it. Like, you're trying to you're trying to come across this girl, like, she's fighting girls, she's fighting boys, it don't matter. And there's a song that she does, and I don't know the title of it, but it's really like, it's fun and it's funny, but it's like, she means it, and she's basically saying like, hell no, I'm not gonna let a man put his hands on me, or hell no, I'm not gonna let so and so get away with this. And it's just, I don't know, I just love that whole scene. I love what it represents for her as a character. And I'm glad that she had that moment. I feel like that was needed. But yeah, I think a lot of us really love her character as a whole. But I think in this one, she was like, I think they really pushed it to where she was really like, no nonsense. And if you've seen the original, if you know the story, then you know that there's a period, there's something that happens. I don't really want to say it. I don't want to spoil it all the way, but there's something really traumatic and serious that happens to her that changes things for her. And so there's the Sophia before this happens, and then there's Sophia after that, and then there's Sophia coming back to herself in the end of the movie. And so the Sophia before that happens is really like, and I love it. I think we all loved it. Like, and I know people were like laughing in the theater at certain moments, like during her song, or like certain things that she would say. And yeah, I think I definitely think she was the breakout uh role, or the breakout star, whatever you want to call it. But I think everybody did a great job. But I think hers in particular, I feel like, especially a lot of like black women, like we're definitely like that, where we're like, yeah, no, you're not about to do that to me, or you're not getting away with that. And then what's crazy is, I don't know if you guys have seen this. If you're on TikTok, you might have seen it, you might not have. But there is pretty much like a trend going on where people are learning the choreography from Harpo scene. And if you don't know, there is a scene where he's building Sophia a house, and it's like him and all these other men, and they break out into the song and this dance and everything, and it's like all the men and stuff, and it's kind of like gritty and everything, and it's cool. And it's like people on TikTok are actually learning the dance from the film and like performing it, like lip singing it. And I was like, what? Like, I was kind of surprised by that, because of all the songs, I didn't think it would be that one. But I guess I was just kind of surprised that like TikTok made it a trend. Like, I didn't think anything from The Color Purple would be considered cool, I guess. And that's not to like diss the movie or anything, but just because it's such a heartbreaking story. Like, there's a lot of sorrow to the story. But I think, and that's another big difference too. I think in this one, you have a little bit more joy, and there's a little bit more triumph in it because of the singing and the music, and the way it just the way it flows, I think, compared to the original. The original is like way more serious. Um it's really emotional. It's like, it's a hard watch, I'm not gonna lie, but it's a really good movie. Like, the storytelling is so good. That's why I would definitely recommend it if you haven't seen the original. But um yeah, I think there was more room for like smiling and laughing in this. So I think if that's your jam, then you might like this one a little bit better than the first one. Yeah, I was so surprised by that TikTok trend. I was like, what? People are learning the dance, which I thought was kind of cool. I was like, makes me kind of want to learn it a little bit. But um yeah. Now, as much as I enjoyed watching this movie, and like I said, I would recommend you to see the original and this one if you haven't seen it. I definitely have some criticisms. It's nothing too harsh or anything, but for me personally, one of the main criticisms I have, and again, this might be a spoiler. I don't know. So I guess if you don't want it to be ruined, then maybe click out of this and come back to it later once you've seen the movie. But um Sierra is in the movie for like a very small part, and it's at the end, and she is the adult version of Nettie. So when Nettie and Celie reunite in the end, it's Sierra. And I kind of thought it was her, like, before they even showed her, because it was like when Celie was reading the letters and it was her voice. And I'm like, that sounds like Sierra. I was like, wait, what? Is that Sierra? I even like turned to my sister. I was like, is that Sierra's voice? But yeah, so it was Sierra. And so I didn't know that she was going to be in it at all. And so like I said, she's in the end part of it. So not very much. We really don't see adult Nettie very much. And it's like that in the original too, where like she kind of comes in at the end. Um, but for me, personally, I felt like that kind of took me out of the movie, kind of took me out of the scene, only because it was hard for me to see Sierra as Nettie. Like I was looking at it and I'm like, this is Sierra. Like this is the R&B singer Sierra. This is my goodies. My goodies. Like this is not Nettie, you know? Like it was hard for me to see her as her character. And I kind of feel like that might have been a misstep when it comes to casting. I think, I'm sure with these types of movies and sometimes with movies they like to add like stars in it, like people that you wouldn't expect to see and stuff like that, which I get. It can be like a nice surprise. And there's a couple other people too who kind of had cameos that I didn't know were going to be in it, and I won't say who because I don't want to spoil it. But for me though, it was just like, okay, like I'm really trying hard to see Sierra as Nettie and I just don't see it. But that's nothing like personal on Sierra. Like obviously we know she could sing and everything like that, and I know she's done some acting before, but yeah, that was kind of it just kind of took me out of the moment, and I kind of wish it didn't, because that's such an emotional scene. And in the original, like that scene for me is the one that where I always like tear up, and I still felt like, like wow, like they're finally reuniting. I still have that feeling, but it just wasn't as much compared to the original, because like I said, it just kind of felt like, oh, this is Sierra, it's not it's not Nettie. Y'all let me know if you know what I'm talking about, but it just didn't feel like authentic, maybe. I don't know. And one of the other things was sort of a miss to me was the way that they gave Mr. this redemption arc. Now, I understand that in the end he did bring back Nettie so that so that her and her sister could reunite. I understand that he did a really good thing there. That was very good. That was like one good thing that he did. And I'm sure that Celie was appreciative of it, but it just, I don't know, like it felt like, I guess they were trying to give him a redemption arc, but to me it just felt like even before he did that, like before she knew that he was planning on doing that, they had already made their separate ways. She had left him and she was doing good on her own, and then he comes back into her life and trying to be like nice to her and to, like brush up, to be like, hey, like we're still cool, right? And she's like, yeah, like let's just be friends. And I guess she did that to keep the peace, but to me it was just like, this man abused you your whole life. Like, why would she ever want to be friends with him? Like, in my head, I'm just like, no, we're not friends. We're not cool. That doesn't mean like I have to like try to go after you. That doesn't mean that I can't forgive you, but like, we're not cool. We don't need to be friends. We don't need to be in each other's lives. And I kind of wish that like they didn't make it like that, where they're just like, okay, we're cool, like, yeah, we're not if he wasn't abusive and they had just broken up, then okay, I could get that. But like, he abused her pretty much her whole life, and he never really said he was sorry for it. And even if he did, I mean, that doesn't make up for like years and years of abuse and trauma. But I don't know, it just felt very much like, really, like they're, I don't know. I think maybe they did that because, in my opinion, I guess because like Celie just wanted to keep the peace. She wasn't a violent person. Like, it really wasn't until that dinner scene that really pushed her to her wits end, and that's when she was gonna, do something. But I think um I just didn't like the idea of like him doing this one thing and then all of a sudden like he's redeemed. Like, he's not. Not in my eyes. You guys let me know what you think. I still think he was like a terrible person. To me, it was just like, it was like a little bit too easy forgiven. And I felt like it should have just been like, we're not together anymore. I don't want to see you. You live your life. I live mine. That's that. To me, it was just like, I wasn't really feeling that. And then lastly, I felt like Suge. So a big part of Suge's storyline is how she is pretty much, kind of estranged with her father, because her father doesn't agree with the lifestyle that she's chosen. So he's like a preacher, he's in church and everything, and she sings like jazz and blues. And, when I think around town, she's kind of known as being like promiscuous and loose and all this stuff. Like, she just likes to have fun and everything. And she's very like free. And obviously, like I said, at that time, it was very much like, even now, like, still people look at women that way, but especially back then, it was like, you're not married, you're not settled down, you don't have kids, and so, her father didn't like that, and so her father didn't really, like, speak with her. He didn't really want anything to do with her, and that clearly, like, hurt her because she loved her dad. And, I feel like that was more emphasized in the original one compared to this one. There is still, like, hints of that, and there's scenes between them, and they do, like, come to an understanding at the end, but to me, it didn't feel as, like, emotional. Like, it didn't have that emotional impact like it does in the first one or in the original one. But that's just me. That was just my opinion. And, that's nothing to, like, the, actor's specific performance. It was more so maybe just the way it was written, and maybe just, like, we didn't really get enough of a sense of, like, how much that was really hurting her. And I know that, like, for her character, she wasn't always like the most vulnerable. I think she was with Celie, and that was a big reason maybe why they became such good friends and why they were able to like talk to each other about these things. But just for me, it just was kind of like, it just felt like, oh, her father isn't really on speaking terms with her. And then at the end, he kind of like forgives her, or he realizes that maybe he was wrong, and then they reunite. It just felt like there was kind of a gap there. Like, it went from like point A to point C instead of like point A, B, C, if that makes sense. And again, I think that was just because they were maybe like focusing on other aspects of the film, because there's so much going on and every character has their own storyline and the way it all interweaves and connects back to Celie and everything. So it's a lot, and it's a long movie too. It's like 2.5 hours, I think. So um I know, I'm sure they try to fit in as much as they could, but that was just my thing where I was kind of like, I didn't feel as much with that. But either way, I think Taraji did a good job as Shug. And again, it's like one of those things where you're like, oh, I knew she could sing, but like she did a really good job, especially with her solo number that she does in the club. I thought that was really good. But anyway, guys, that's my review of The Color Purple. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. How does it compare to the original? And if you haven't seen it, do you plan on seeing it? Let me know. And if you like me doing movie reviews and doing movie discussions, let me know, because I would love to do more of these as well. And I plan on doing some more reactions, plan on doing some more interviews, which I'm always excited to do that. And, anything that you guys want me to do, just let me know. And I'm always looking out in the comments, or if you want to like email me, you can. If you want to private message me, you could do that as well. But I appreciate any support that you guys give me. And, we're going to keep this thing rolling, right? So thank you guys for watching and tuning in, and I'll see you next time.